My life started out pretty much as a normal childhood. I was born in 1945 and brought up in the wonderful 1950s. When we were around 7 or 8 years old, we already were able to go out to Island Park just about every day, all by ourselves. We were called the River Rats, and we knew every rapid and every deep hole in the river. That is when I had my first experience with Wustum. A fellow river rat came running up to us while we were down at the river and said, "You gotta see this. That big house up on the hill by the golf course has people in there with no clothes on. Come on, I'll show you." Without hesitation, we ran, following him up the hill, got up to the windows and tried to, everything to peer through the Venetian blinds. No, there wasn't any naked people in there. Every day we would go up there to see if we could see the naked people. I don't remember seeing them, but my other river rat friends proudly said that they saw them. One time I went up there all by myself. I sneaked up to the window and I tried to get a peek in. I was caught by this one man. He told me it was okay to go inside with him and see the place if I wanted to. Not even thinking about safety. Nobody worried about weirdos back in those days. He showed me the art rooms and told me about how people modeled in these rooms to be sketched and painted by students. Oh, they must be the naked people, I thought. But why? Why would you be naked? Then he showed me some of the other rooms and the artworks that were in them. It was very interesting, but a little bit too much like school, and I wanted to get back to the gang down by the river. Later I found out that that man was Sylvester Jerry. I went to a parochial school all of my life. Yes, I walked there 2 miles each way. Yes. Back in 4th grade, I had a teacher. She kind of looked a little bit like Miss Landers on Leave It to Beaver. One day she said, "Class, you've been drawing with crayons and colored pencils so nice. I now have a new project for you. Over Christmas vacation, I want you to ask your mom and dad to get you a set of watercolors and a brush, okay? I want you to think about what you would really like to do this summer. And then I want you to do a painting of it." Well, back in those days, you could get a set of watercolor paints at the dime store for less than $1. So I didn't have any trouble asking mom and dad for that, and they agreed to get me one. And I can still remember sitting in my bedroom at the desk, sketching out my very first watercolor. It was me sitting in a canoe on a river. I was catching a jumping fish with a rod and reel. Even though my mom saved the picture, I couldn't find it for this presentation. When we returned to school after vacation, we turned in our paintings. And when it got to mine, the teacher showed it to the whole entire class and began praising me in front of everyone for the wonderful job I did. The kids were going, "Ooh, was that ever neat? Yeah, really." But I thought to myself, hey, it's really not that good, but maybe for a 4th grader, it might be pretty good. My aunt worked at Wustum Printing, and every month she would bring me a ream of 8x10 paper. The 500 sheets would be drawn on or painted on within a month. I couldn't stop doodling. Things changed a bit in high school because many of us got interested in cars. We were too young to drive, but we read magazines from cover to cover as soon as they came out, like Hot Rod magazine. I drew cars right away, and I got pretty well known in school as the kid who could draw cars. Mr. Granke was my mechanical drawing teacher and art teacher at the same time. I did this drawing for a project in mechanical drawing. Of course, mine was a car. He was very impressed, and one day he made me stay after school, and he said to me, "Tom, you need to learn perspective." I didn't know what perspective was at all. So that day he showed me. He showed me how to draw cars that I was drawing flat, only this time in perspective, by drawing a box showing diminishing lines at different angles. After about a week of this, of being after school for these lessons, I understood it. And then I really started drawing cars. You know, Mr. Granke did not have to do this, but he did. That teaching of perspective was a great lesson that he shared with me that day, and I use it still today in many facets of my art. Teachers, we all should be teachers. One final project at Parkside, I remember, was way too big to bring into the school. I had my professor walk with me out to the parking lot to see it. He said, "This better be good to make me walk all this way." The professor stopped dead in his tracks, removed his hat, and scratched his head. With a little grin on his face, he began walking around the car. You see, there was a scene that was painted all around the car that told a story. On the fenders, the VW bug comes up to a lake. That's on one fender. On the next fender, it shows it going into the lake. And then again on the next fender, it shows that it has become a giant fish. And on the last fender, it comes out of the lake and turns back into a VW bug again. The whole car was painted like an Easter egg with multiple colors, and then I applied a design of drafting tape all over the entire car, and then painted the whole car black. While the paint was drying, I removed all the tape, revealing the colors that were underneath it. I got this idea from doing crayon drawings, coloring it with black ink, and then after it dried, scratching the ink to show the colors underneath. On the way back into class, the prof told me that he had never seen anything like this before and probably will never again. "Mr. Peterson, you're getting an A." You know, the one remark that he said to me that day that really stuck out, he said, "You don't paint like me. Most of your classmates do, hoping that they'll get a good grade by buttering me up. But you paint from your soul, and I like that. Out of all the art that I did in college, this is the only thing that I have photos of it." So I got my dream job. I worked there since 1968. I worked there for 32 or 33 years. Just started out as a draftsman. Pretty soon we started up an advertising department, and we didn't have one. That's how things all happened. I got into photography. I learned photography when I was at Parkside, and so got into shooting digital photos when the first digital camera came out. Worked with the first programs that were out on the computer. I remember we got the absolutely first Macintosh. Learned how to draw stickmen from that, and it was rough. It was rough. But here, look at this picture of me. It was about 1970. It was around 1970. And boy, I'll tell you, I was at an all-time low in my whole entire life. It wasn't because of drugs. It wasn't because of alcohol. It was just loneliness, and depression was setting in because I was so lonely. And when I just happened to see this Bible sitting across the room on this old desk of mine, and I went over and picked it up, and I sat down in the very chair that I'm sitting in right there and started reading that Bible, and things started changing in my life. It was about a week later, I got a call from a friend down in Kansas City, Missouri. He says, "Tom, you got to come down here and see what's going on." I met a bunch of hippies just like me. They were just so happy. And I just watched them to see if this was all phony, because there was a lot of cult things going on at that time. And no, they weren't phony. And I said to myself, I want this. And that night I asked Jesus to take control of my life. I just told him I made a mess of it up until now, and I'm sick and tired of it. From now on, I want you to take over my life and do whatever you want with it, because I'm tired of it. And I expected to go to Africa right away, but I never did. I never went to Africa. But I'll tell you, I got changed. And I still am getting changed daily. Well, things were really, really going good at Unico. I was enjoying my work more than ever, but I still had that loneliness inside of me. And I prayed this time to the Lord to supply a helpmate to me, a companion that would love me, and I would be able to love her. And that girl from Parkside, that girl from Parkside that I just flipped head over heels for, I met her at a little meeting we were having. And that night I took her home to her mom and dad's house. And then we began seeing each other. And I was in a band at that time called Lazarus, and she was a good piano player, very good piano player, and had a beautiful voice. So we just invited her to join the band. And then pretty soon we started traveling the country. Dory and I started getting closer and closer together. One day after we were playing at this church up north, I took her down into the basement and I proposed to her, and I felt like she was going to say no, but she said yes. And then we got married, and we had a wonderful, wonderful wedding. Even a choir came all the way from up north to sing at our wedding. That was a blessing, boy. What happens after you get married? You start having kids. And we had three wonderful daughters, and they were just the apple of our eyes. And we brought them up as best as we could in the Lord. And those three daughters had their own children. And I'm happy to say that we now have 8 grandchildren. And it's probably the best time in our lives, and when our whole family gets together. One lives on the East Coast, one lives on the West Coast, and one lives right here in good old Racine. So, things did change. Things did change back in 1970 for me. Around 1975, I picked up painting again. After watching Bill Alexander on PBS, I built a little studio in the basement and started painting one night a week. After a while, I built a bigger studio, as you can see here with my dad. This is so that I can invest more time in experimenting and do larger paintings. At this particular time, I also picked up an airbrush and taught myself how to use it. Only at first to do clouds and such, but basically I started out as a brush painter. Pretty soon that airbrush just took over. It just took over everything. One day, one of my fellow students from Parkside saw me at a store and asked me if I was still doing the surrealistic paintings that I was doing out at Parkside, and I said, no, not really. She says, well, can I come over and see your artwork sometime? I says, well, sure, come over anytime. Matter of fact, you can come over right now. And she did. She followed me home, and she walked into the studio that we have on the back of the garage, and when she saw what I was doing, she just kind of grabbed her chest and went kind of backwards on her heels, and she says, wow, this is not what I expected. And after looking at it for a while, she said, I've never seen anything like this before. You should enter this in Wisconsin watercolors. I work over there every once in a while, and I think that this would really fit in really well. And I says, well, okay, let's give it a shot. So I guess Beverly Coleman Hayes was the one who really got me started on the show circuit. The painting Vis-a-Vis, along with Aeolian Courier, were entered in that show. I believe it was Vis-a-Vis that won the Merit Award that year, and my first award, and it just was very encouraging for me to go on and continue on. And after that, I entered Wisconsin watercolors probably for the next 10 or 15 years. But I found out that I was in a category known as automobile fine art, which I didn't know. There were other artists that were doing the same thing, and I did meet them over time. Automobile fine art. This turned out to be a great fit for me because of my love for painting and my love for cars. Instead of painting whole cars, I focused on the abstract reflections of just certain parts of the body and the grills. I could let my imagination go wild in the reflections, often telling a story in the content. I became quite well known, which led to future articles, covers, and well-known car magazines, interviews, and other things that were going on in the automobile industry. I was seeming to get involved with, being asked by other people to come and talk with them and show them what I've been doing. Pretty soon I became internationally known because of the shows that I was doing, as well as many commission paintings for people from all walks of life. When I would do commission work, I loved putting the cars in context with the people's lives, putting in details or reflections of memories of the good times in their lives when they had the car, just to personalize it. This led to doing less art shows and art fairs and more car shows. I'd often be the featured artist at high-profile shows that would draw international attention with big names and car people and marques, the real cream of the collectors and the customizers and other well-known automobile fine artists. I was awarded the Automobile Artist of the Year Award in 1997 and won the Par Excellence Award from the EAA Aviation Foundation in 1994 in their art competition. Painting the B-50 is the only automobile that ever won an international aviation art show. In 2001, I retired from Unico but continued to work for them 3 years as a contract. I was still doing car shows on every weekend. 20 plus years of working full-time job and often being away from the family on weekends led to some disenchantment with the whole scene. In 2006, a comment that a friend and customer, Dan Balke, said to me, he says, Tom, when are you going to ever just stop doing these shows on the weekend and just sitting in your yard and watch the grass grow? Well, I had a good laugh about that, and he kind of winked and had a good laugh about it. And then a week later, he died. And when that happened, I started thinking what he said. It was like this wasn't coming out of his mouth. I think this was coming from the mouth of God, that it was time for me just to settle down, move back, and take it easy and see what's going on. And I did. And at that time, I just quit doing all the car shows. I quit doing paintings. And once again, my whole art life just stopped. About a year later, I met an old friend, and he was doing a show on television called Way Out Willard's Wild World of Automobiles, or something like that. I can't remember. It was a long title. And he asked me if I would help produce the show for him and film. He knew I was into film. I said, well, sure, I'm not doing any artwork and doing car shows anymore. He says, but you don't? I says, no. I says, I'm just kind of putting that on the back burner. And he says, well, let's do car shows. And I says, well, what do you mean? He says, well, I want to go out and film car shows and go out to the drag strip and film at the drag strip. If you want, you can come along with me. And we'll only go out once a week. I thought, well, I could probably do that. And I said, okay, let's give it a try. So we tried it once. I really, really liked it. We went out to the drag strip, and I hadn't been out to the drag strip since the early 60s. And we filmed cars out there and interviewed famous people. And I came back and I edited it, and I spent probably 3 or 4 days just on editing the whole show, submitted it to the television, and got great reviews on it. People just really, really liked it. So I became a producer, a television producer. I learned a whole lot of editing by the seat of my pants and a lot of video work, which I never thought I would do. Did you ever try to film a dragster going 280 miles an hour down a drag strip in a blink of an eye? Well, I had to learn how to do that. So I got into film. Film is another form of art, and I really enjoyed it, and I still do. I still do a lot of filming.
This is Tom Peterson, a.k.a. Uncle Tom from Uncle Tom's Kitchen. Well, we're doing another show. As you remember, last month we did a show on Habitat Humanity for the volunteer series that we're doing, Volunteers Every Scene. Now, because of that, we found another person. As you can remember, Harold Solberg is a person that, there goes a squirrel, is a person that actually started the Habitat Restore, him and his wife, Lois, in Racine. And I found out that he's a bowl maker. He makes bowls out of wood, and what an artist he is. Beautiful work. We're going to see a little bit of his work. Take a look at this once.
Hi, Harold Solberg, and I'm demonstrating today turning buckthorn. The technical term is called chatoyance.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that Indian?
That flash in the wood.
Oh.
Gas in my rod. Can you give me a ride, man?
Yeah, come on, dude. Hop in my car. We'll head down to my crib and we'll check it out.
Okay, cool, man. Thanks a lot. You live here, bro?
Yeah, you got a problem with that?
Well, no, as long as you got a phone, but you live in a chicken coop?
While I was doing the Way Out Willard show, I decided that I would like to do a cooking show because I really enjoyed cooking, too. I started doing a cooking show, and we called it the Uncle Tom's Kitchen. And basically, I wanted to do is teach guys how to cook. It was a guy show. My whole idea here was getting guys to eat more healthy food because most of the guys, all they do is just run to get a burger or wherever to get something fast food place. I was showing them how much fun it is, and I would throw in some of the movies and some of the photographs that we shot out at the drag strip or at the car show. And by golly, that show caught on too, and they wanted more and more of them, so I started producing more. And I did Uncle Tom's Kitchen probably for 3 years on television. And during the last part of the 3 years that I was doing it, I had my granddaughter Bella come in. And when she was probably just able to talk, she came in and started doing some shows with me, and she was the cutest thing. And this is a special kind of cheese, Bella. I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you about this cheese. I'm going to say, this is Chihuahua cheese. And I'm going to say, Bella, where does Chihuahua cheese come from? And you say, those little Chihuahuas. Well, that's what you have to say. Those little Chihuahuas, okay?
Chihuahuas.
Little Chihuahuas. Chihuahuas. You say?
Chihuahuas.
Little. Gotta go like this. Little Chihuahuas.
Chihuahuas.
Little Chihuahuas.
Little one.
And you know what, Bella, you know what this cheese? This is Chihuahua cheese. Where does Chihuahua cheese come from?
Comes from in Jesus. That's Jesus.
You say, from little Chihuahuas.
Little
Chihuahuas, say it. Say little dogs, okay?
little dogs.
Okay. And this is the Chihuahua cheese. And Bella, where does Chihuahua cheese come from?
Comes from
Okay, you say little dogs. That's all you have to say is little dogs.
Little dogs.
Okay. And here is the Chihuahua cheese. And where does Chihuahua cheese come from?
In there.
We're never going to get this done. You just say little dogs. That's all you have to say is little dogs. That's all you have to say. Okay, here we go again. And Bella, this is Chihuahua cheese. And where does Chihuahua cheese come from?
Come from in there.
It comes from little dogs. Now I'll do it again. I'll say little dogs. That's all you got to say is little dogs. Grandpa's going to say, where does Chihuahua cheese come from? And you say little dogs. And look up at the camera. And Bella, this is Chihuahua cheese. And where does Chihuahua cheese come from?
Come from dogs.
Those little bitty dogs?
Yeah.
Where did you learn that? On the internet?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't believe everything you hear on the internet. So we have the Chihuahua cheese here. So retired, I even got busier than ever doing the Wild Willard show, the Uncle Tom's Kitchen. And then in 2008, I started recording the Sunday services at Racine Bible Church. I also put those on television and for people in Racine who might be shut-ins or not being able to go to the service. In June of 2011, 3 days after I thought I had pains in my shoulder from arthritis, Dory took me to the ER thinking that I was having a heart attack. They didn't think so, and they were about ready to send me home, and suddenly I flatlined and went into seizures. They brought me back to life after 10 minutes of work. They put in a stent, and I was in the hospital for a week. Sent home to get stronger and scheduled for to come back in a month for a triple bypass, which turned out to be a quadruple bypass during the surgery. Needless to say, I dropped the Wild Willard show and doing car shows. I dropped Uncle Tom's Kitchen sometime later in that year, but continued to do the RBC services and expanding to distributing the DVD services to several local nursing homes and residents who couldn't get out to see the services. In 2012, my cousin Shirley said that I should get back into painting, and she took me to my first geezer meeting on a Wednesday morning. This dragonfly painting that's in the back here was my first effort. I painted one side of it, airbrushed it, and then tried to start painting the left-hand side. My mind could see what I was supposed to draw or paint on the other side, but my hand would not let me do it. It was almost like I had a stroke in my brain, and I wasn't able to do what my brain was telling me to do. I thought, there's something wrong here, and I have to really work at it. The geezers were very, very encouraging. When I went there and I told them about that, they just says, well, just keep at it and work harder and harder at it, which I did. Just trying to get my mind and my hand coordinated again. And this is the result. I did do it. I got it through, and it took me probably a month just to do that part of the painting. You know, how many times can you erase a dragonfly and without, burning a hole in the paper? It was getting pretty bad, but I did get through it. And after that, I just felt like I could paint again, and I did. And I'll tell you, the geezers were the ones who really pulled me through this really hard time in my life. Another friend of mine says, well, listen, why don't you try painting something with cars again? And I thought, I don't want to do that anymore. He said, but I got a truck, and all I want you to do is to just take a piece of the chrome that's on the car that says Apache on it and paint a scene in it. And right away I had a vision. I had a vision of an Apache, an Indian, and he was reflected in the chrome with the teepees and a scene in the background. I said, okay, I'll do it. And for the next month, I was painting a piece of chrome, and I was really enjoying it. So slowly but surely, I'm getting back into art. My cousin Terry came along on the scene. He was a retired art professor from Rochester, Minnesota. And he started teaching me more and more about abstract art again and how much fun it is to paint with a stick and just taking a whole bunch of paint and putting that down on a canvas and then just moving it around with sticks that you find on the ground and paint instead of paintbrushes using leaves. And I was giggling like a little kid. This was so much fun. Sooner or later, I just started working more and more in abstract art, just letting my hands do what my mind was seeing, And then I learned how to do pour paintings. I don't know if you know what pour painting is, but this is a video of me doing a pour painting that we did for for RAG, for the show downtown at the Starving Artists Fair. I was doing the tabletop. sometimes I just didn't stop with the pour painting because I would look at it and I would see like creatures in the pour. And I thought, hey, maybe I can bring those out. So I started bringing them out with pencil, started bringing them out with paint, I started bringing them out with ink. And I was just having a great time. I was learning from a fellow by the name of Peter Draws. That's not his name, but it was Peter, and his show was called Peter Draws. And it was all about letting your mind go and just doodling. And I thought, doodling, I like doodling. I used to love to doodle. I doodled all over my notebooks all the time. And I started doodling. I started seeing these little creatures and whatever was inside these pour paintings and started bringing them out. Had fun. You'll see some of those here too. Well, what we're going to see now is pretty much a painting start to finish in airbrushing. And as you can see right now, I'm working on the wheels and tires. The whole entire car now is already sketched out with pencil, and I'm working on the wheels right now. These are a type of mag wheel that are used on stock cars, racing cars. The tires that you see are used for dirt track racing. Now this is a frisket, which is a piece of masking tape, very large piece of masking tape. And I'm just cutting it very precisely around the edge of the tire now. Now I very carefully pull it off, just making sure that I don't rip anything. We can't have any little bitty rips on the side because the spray will go underneath that. It can all be fixed, but it saves a lot of time if you get it right the first time. So now I take the airbrush out and I'll start painting the black parts of the wheel, which is the inside of the mag wheels. You won't see any color through there, so that's why I'm painting it black. I might have a little purple in it also. Now once again I'm removing the masking tape from another section. Now I'll be painting the sidewall, so I'm erasing all the pencil marks in there because I can kind of figure out where they are because they're real nice and light. So I want to spray this whole sidewall now with basically a gray. I am using a black paint, but I've mixed in some white with it just to give it a little bit of a gray tone. That's the fun part about airbrushing. You can really get your paint to work the way you want it to work. It takes a lot of experience. I mean, I'm self-taught in airbrushing. There weren't any books or videos out back in those days. I don't even think they had videos when I started working on airbrushing. So yeah, so it can be done. And I would suggest anybody wanting to learn how to airbrush that they get a video and save a whole lot of time. Okay, now I'm pulling off the masking on the wheels, and as you can see down the black area of the mag is showing through. Now I'm going to go in with a brush and I'm going to start adding some of the details of the inside of the wheels. Got to have a pretty steady hand for this. Now I'm going to be removing another piece of masking tape, and then I'm going to paint the top part of the tire. Putting tape back on top of it, I'm going to cut it again so that the only thing that's revealed is the top part. And here I'm spraying it with a little bit of brown. because of the dirt that's on the track makes the tire look brown. It's all on the tread. Now I'm doing the shadow part. The wheels are going to be painted red. That's the way the owner had the wheels on this car. Same color, match the colors. So I'm putting in some shadow into the wheels now. What do you see how this looks? There it is. Because I painted the wheels, I had to block off the black again on the mag, so I'm just removing that. And there it is, there's the wheel. I think the wheel's all done. Now I'm pulling off the masking on the whole painting so you get a really good idea of what it looks like. Now I'm going to start working on the back tire and wheel. This big tape is really excellent for airbrushing. I'm once again painting the brown part on the outside of the tire. And putting all the tread in by hand. This tape, like I said before, you can get this at a sign shop supplier. There's one up in Milwaukee. It's called the backing on vinyl lettering. For vinyl applications, they use this to put down the vinyl and then they remove it. So the tack on it is really, really low, but really good for working on board. And that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a crescent board. It's nice and flat. You can really get good details on it. There we go. And looks like the next hardest thing, well, the first hardest thing was to do the tires. If you get the tires wrong, you might as well quit and start all over. The next hardest thing will be the lettering. I think so. Yep, yeah, looks like we're going to be going into actually painting the interior of the car. Painted that all a dark color. I'm not sure if it was straight black or I mixed colors in with it too. So that's getting removed. You can see that there's going to be a driver in the car. I actually used the guy who owns the car as the model. And now I'm working on the lettering, which is really intricate. And you can see that I have some magnifying glasses on because I need those once in a while to make sure that I get that really good cut. And it's really rough to do it this way, but I'm not very good at hand lettering like some of my friends are. That's why I go ahead and airbrush the whole thing. It's a little extra time put in on it, but I can't say that my quality on paint lettering is very good at all. Oh yeah, the owner of this car did not know that I was doing a painting of it. I was commissioned by his son to do it, and I went to Lodi, Wisconsin to take photographs of the car. His son took it out of his dad's garage while his dad was on vacation and shot some pictures of it. And then we started thinking about how we're going to do this. We're going to put it on a racetrack. That's what we're going to be doing. So here now I'm painting the red. The red's got some brown in it. I was trying to match the color as what I saw on the original. This is going to be a lot of fun once you see what this looks like after it's all painted. That's a bar that goes along. It was the same color. Matter of fact, the color on the lettering is like the coloring on the frame. And there we go. That's what it looks like before you take the masking off. And now we're taking the masking off. And this is really, really tense because you have to be careful not to rip the paint that's on there. Because it's very easy. If you just start ripping the paint, you stop. And then you try to get it down like I was doing right there. And just start pulling it off. There you go. And now you see that I was painting the framework on the car, the bars, the roll bars and everything. Started working on the engine. Another important part of this car was the engine. It was an old flathead motor. So I painted a bunch of black on a bunch of the shadows that are on the ground. Filled in all the areas that are really dark or black. Once again, pulling off all the masking is important. You don't want, if you're going to start spraying it, you don't want a piece of tape on there and spray over it and then find out that you got tape on it. I've done that. So there we are, tires, and engine, and lettering. That was the hard part. Now I'm starting to do the groundwork. Putting in all the mud flying around, that was fun. That was all done with brush. And splattering with toothbrushes, of course. Putting in the shadow underneath all the little things that were, all the little rocks and stuff that was flying around was really a lot of fun. So you can see I shadowed underneath every one of them. And it's kicking up the dirt right there on the front tire. Now the car in the back, Ron's father also was a stock car racer, and this is the car that he raced, which was a 39 Ford Coupe. And they had that photograph of it up above, and that's what I was using for my reference on it. So there they are together now. Ron and his father racing around the track. This is the importance of taking really good photographs. You just don't stop by taking one. You take multiples and multiples of photographs, and you try to get, like that engine was in the shadow of that hood, so I had to get in there with the light and light it up so I could see all the details on it. There's that dirt being flipped up. There'll be some more after I paint the car. I'll put some more flipping up on the body of the car. The wheels are done on his dad's car now. They were beautiful 1936 Ford wheels. I had so much fun painting those. And then that's the racetrack. I started working on that as they're going around a curve. I found some old pictures of racetracks back in the 50s, and they didn't have the great big protective walls that they have today. They were just picket fences, and people just stood around and watched them. Not a very good place to be on a curve, though, I'll tell you that. I've been on curves that are like Road America, and those cars don't stop because you're on the corner. And there's Ron in his car. He's not finished yet. He's all drawn in, and he'll be painted in a little bit. And there's the track. And there's Ron. He's painted. He's got his tinted glasses, and that's what it looked like after I had it framed. Delivered to the painting, and it was Ron's birthday, and they took him out to a restaurant and surprised him with the painting.
Look at that wonderful painting with that beautiful mountain and that beautiful island there. Wouldn't you like to be there? Nice to park your camper on the side and unload and have your breakfast there and enjoy that happy fresh morning. This is what I will show you when we start painting. Hooray! That's what we have to do. I have to put myself in that almighty bubble. Let the wind blow high, let the wind blow low. You know, I feel like I put myself in almighty mood. I want to have a sky where the wind comes from any direction and a snowy mountain in the background and some dark trees in front, firing right into the water. See, that's what I always have to do before I start. Either you sing something, I heard someone singing, when the snowbird heard the mountain or hit the mountain. You know, something crazy. You know, with all that together, you get some powerful whatever you want to put on the canvas out. Happy days are here again. The air is clean, the trees are green. Isn't that nice? Trees are green. And what I have in my mind, happy trees and a happy little road coming out. And you walk this beautiful road into yonder. The air is clean and you're happy out there. Sometimes a little dog is coming by, and the dog, you don't worry, you pat them. They are always good friends. That almighty magic white, I just have it on here. Without magic white, I don't know what the devil I would do. That's the way it should be. Okay, now then, this is in my mind, a happy road. Let me do a little outlining maybe. But now trees around, any minute. Happy days are here again. Happy trees are here again. Can you harmonize with happy days are here again? Harmony is such a beautiful thing. How would I harmonize? Happy trees are here again. The harmony is like an echo. It's like an echo. It's like an echo. Light and dark. Without dark, there is no light. Have that in your mind forever. Then I would say, let the sun shine in. The power of colors is just fantastic. Look at the brush. Can we make a close-up shot on that brush? Look at that, Sanwaran. Already you can see all the branches in it, isn't it? All the movements, lots of paint. That brush is loaded. It's loaded. That Sanwaran is loaded. Ooh, look at that. There we are. And now we will. And we will and I can see you walking on that happy road forever and ever into the sunset. Wasn't that nice? Thank you for watching me. Bye-bye. And you know, happiness brings happiness, and I think that is good living. You see, I expressed myself with a happy song, and I got what I want. Thank you for watching me, and I love you. Aren't you happy to see a happy ending like this? You wish you could stay there with the big fishing rod and a basket full of food, catch those beautiful rainbow trouts there. See here, a couple little. Bye-bye. That is it. thank you for watching me, and I love you.
Hi, I'm Bob Ross, and for the next 13 weeks, I'll be your host as we experience the joy of painting. I think each of us, sometime during our life, has wanted to paint a picture. I think there's an artist hid in the bottom of every single one of us. And here we will try to show you how to bring that artist out, to put it on canvas, because you too can paint almighty pictures. So let's do it. Let's paint a picture right here. We're going to start with a big brush, and we're going to cover the canvas with a thin layer of magic white. Okay, let's wash the brush out here. Now, we wash our brushes with odorless paint thinner. Okay, we'll wash him out. And I beat the brush just to dry the bristles. And I think today we'll do a picture that's maybe like we're walking through the woods. And so let's start right here with a little bit of cad yellow with just the least little touch of phthalo green in it. We begin pushing thousands of little leaves on here. Nice little bush here. There, we got us a nice little path. Walking through the woods here. Maybe it rained last night. We'll just make this a little separate puddle back here. I hope you've enjoyed this painting. Next week, we're looking forward to seeing you. I hope you have your brush ready, a dream in your heart that you want to put on canvas. And join us right here for the joy of painting. And you too can build fantastic pictures. You can take them from here and put them on there. And I beat the brush just to dry the bristles.
Hello, I'm Peter. Welcome to my video page. Today we're going to be looking at how to do a intricate doodle. My style of teaching is more of a I do, you see, you do, watch and learn sort of thing. I don't want to tell you exactly how to draw the lines because that defeats the purpose of art. It's just copying things. So you look, you get inspired, you take and pull the things you do like, and then you leave and deride the things you don't like. And then you go draw, right? That's what I do. I look at art I do like, but most of all, I look at life and then pull a few things. Not just the things I do like, but the things that are interesting or invoke some sort of emotional response, I think. But it's not always about emotions. Sometimes I don't get that much into it. It's just about what my eyes like playing over. Basically what I did here was I started with a little scribble in the corner, and as this drawing, this doodle, it can be a drawing and a doodle and a piece of art at the same time, it really can. As it all came into form and formation, I realized it kind of looked like some sort of city. Tentacles and explosions and laser beams. I don't know exactly what's going on. It's all in your head. It's fine. In your head and on the paper, there's some sort of link. I guess it goes up through the pen and through your hand and the arm and up to your head. You can imagine it to be wherever you want. Maybe they get a little glimpse of you. You gotta be careful though, because maybe they might jump to conclusions. I don't know. Sometimes I worry about that. If like a stranger, I wonder if sometimes I don't know if I should be more worried about a stranger seeing my drawings and jumping to conclusions, or someone I know very well who hasn't seen my drawings, before or something, see my drawings and like, Peter, I thought I knew you. Some people would prefer I drew, mermaids and rainbows, but I don't draw as many of that sort of stuff, and it's okay. There's other people drawing those things, and I'm drawing these things. Okay? All right. All of my other shortcomings, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think all of my other shortcomings, all the other frustrations in life, all the other things I'm not in control of, I'm going to try to make up for it just by drawing. And I don't know if that's a healthy reason to draw, but I think it's a good reason. It's a lot better than a lot of other things that you could be doing. I think it's I don't know if it's the perfect reason to draw. Maybe I should be drawing for the love of art or something. I don't really like the word art anyways, but I know I like drawing and it feels good, and I'll keep doing it. I feel like I just got interviewed by myself or something. Right. I like you guys all right. You're okay in my book. And I do have a book. Okay. All right. Okay, bye everybody. Goodbye.
I never expected that I would become a fantasy author. I come from a long line of mechanical engineers. My dad worked for the space program. In his spare time, he invented his own bicycles. His father pioneered sound and Technicolor for motion pictures. His father, my great-grandfather, started a company that made ball bearings, the Gurney Ball Bearing Company. The one thing that they all had in common was that they were all curious, and they passed this down on to me. They all wanted to know how things were made, how they would look if you took them apart. And they all believed in drawing. Not that they were artists, they were engineers. They used drawing as a way to figure out how things were made, how to put things together, how to bring things into being. My father once told me, everything begins with a drawing. And if you can draw something, you can create it. I ended up majoring in archaeology in college and then went on to art school. Later, I got a dream job working for National Geographic itself. My job as an archaeological illustrator was to travel on location with archaeologists and to try to reconstruct from the evidence in the ground what was the full picture of life in the ancient world. And at the end of each day of working with archaeologists, we would often sit around the campfire and talk about the dream of discovering a lost city. And it was then that I got the idea that I could create my own lost world. I want to show you how to make a camera slider using an ordinary drawer glide that you can get at the hardware store with a Lego motor to pull it back. This gives you smooth, kind of Hollywood-style camera moves, completely operator-free. We'll start by building the slider itself and then show you how to mount it on a tripod, and then I'll show you how to make the Lego gear down. I've been waiting for 17 years to paint a portrait. Hi, I'm James Gurney, and here in the Hudson Valley, this is the year of the 17-year cicada. They've been emerging from the ground by the billions, first as nymphs. Then they shed their exoskeleton, they grow wings, and they fly. And if I'm going to paint the portrait of one like this one that's perched right here on this leaf, I'm going to have to do it quickly before it is ready to take off and fly. The palette is a homemade rig that I've been experimenting with, made from 2 pieces of plywood held together with resistance hinges. These hinges allow the two parts to open up and stay in whatever position you leave them. The whole rig fits onto a quick release plate on a tripod, so you can tilt it to whatever angle you like. Now the pallet surface itself is made from the metal lid of a colored pencil box, and next to that is a little washer, steel washer, where I can put my water cup, and that holds in place with a magnet. Thank you, Steve Gilzo. So when I open the sketchbook, it'll stay at whatever position and whatever height that I want in relation to the pallet. So I was standing by the Lehigh River last week, and here's what I was looking at. I love the warm color of the rocks in the shallows. I started by laying in the drawing using a bristle brush on an oil-primed board, and then just blocking in areas of the picture until I could get to a finished effect. At the end of the picture, I did the reflections and some of the accents, and the whole thing took about 4 hours. Here's a painting of the old conductor. And it's painted in oil, area by area. I try to immerse myself in the scene and imagine I'm there. For example, this one, Chasing Shadows. Painted in oil on panel, the sky, the sandy beach, the shadows, the trees. Or this one, Market Square. Preliminary sketch, the line drawing, transparent wash-in, and then going in dark for the background. Around the arch, and then working my way down to the right-hand side, then the arch on the left, and the far part of the market. It's the afternoon here at the farm, and I want to paint a view of the sky here, capture some of the clouds in this late day sky.